Hi, this is Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. It shows that you forget 90% of what you memorized on day one within a week. It is scary, right? It is true even more for our languages that we are learning, especially because we don't have any sort of a structure in words in grammatical concepts. So we forget them. So I've been trying to learn Morse code for past few days. It is basically this representation of characters using dashes and dots used in military communication back in the days. You would think that learning so many random dashes and dots would be hard, but no. It is easy because we gave our brain some connections. Let's see. When you think of E, you think of I. E for an I, E for an I. Obviously, you have to learn that, but it's quite easy to learn that. Now, what does an I has? An I has a dot. So E stands for a dot in Morse code language. Now, when you think of H, you think of an hippo. H, hippo. Quite an easy characteristic like combination to make into a brain, right? Now, what does an hippo has? He has obviously two eyes and two weird little nose. So H stands for dot 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 in Morse code language. Now we made similar imageries for everything and we learned it using that method. So our brain needs some sort of connection. It can be any sort of connection, but some sort of connection which you already know about. It doesn't have to be anything novel, anything logical. It just has to be something that your brain already knows, no matter how illogical. It just needs to be a connection to learn arbitrary things like this or anything for that matter. This is basically the concept of German loop. It basically states that you have to connect information in between your brain for it to actually retain it. Now you cannot just throw any random set of information at it. You have to make any sort of connection to it. And the more connection that you make to the things that you already knew, the better and the longer your brain will retain the information for. In Greek psychology, Mneumocene was the goddess of memory, and Greeks thousands of years ago created these methods to retain stuff for longer. A fun fact, they actually had memory slaves whose only job was to remember things so that they can represent it later on. Huh? Modern SSDs. The idea of mnemonics is for you to make weird connections which don't make any sense. Like this doesn't make any sense for me to do this right now, but the main essence is to make weird connections using some arbitrary and funny and honestly absurd thing or imagery for a word or a concept so that your mind remembers it for the sake of absurdity. Today, you'll remember a Russian word with me. Let's take an example of the Russian word for the English word teeth. Now it is called zubui in Russian. You would not remember it just by repeating it once or twice because there is no association between the English word and the Russian equivalent. There is no association in between them. So let's try to create it. How I try to remember it is by imagining a picture. This picture is of a bee who's trapped in a zoo and has a big teeth. Zoo, buoy, and teeth. Zoo, buoy, and teeth. The bee has big teeth. Now, when you look at this weird imagery, you'd instinctively remember it for the amount of time which is needed to retain that word in your longer memory. Now, why this works is we created a connection. That connection was absurd. Our mind loves connection. Our mind loves absurdity. What is great about this is that as this word gets deep rooted into your mind will forget the weird imagery that you created and will remember the initial word zubui. So this doesn't really has any consequence that the imagery will stay with you. You will forget the imagery, you'll retain the word. Win-win. Adindotri chitiriyetat, adindotri chitiriyetat. Do you remember the song? I don't think that you do because it's not a song. This is the music for the word 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Russian. Adin, dwa, tri, chitiri, pyat. Now, if you sing the song, you'll remember the numbers 1 from 5 in Russian. This, I think that every one of us has done at some point or other. Making music as a connection. Yeah, when you're making music of that periodic table, you were essentially using a mnemonic. This is the most effective one of them all. Like, you can just make flashcards of the words that you want to learn, right? On one hand is the English word, and on the back, the Russian word. Now, what are the benefits of this? See, the benefits of this is active recall. What you can do is you can just take some of these sheets with you wherever you are going, and then you can just try to play with them, right? You can try to. You see this? Now, what is the Russian word for it? Oh, I forgot. Yeah, it is this. Oh, what is the Russian word for this? Oh, nice. I remember. Am I right? Yeah, am I right? This is the essence of flashcard, and it is much better than digitally making your flashcards because these are the physical things that you have at all times with them. And trust me, this has been paramount in me trying to learn this vocabulary in this weird, rude language.
I can be taking shit and learning my words both at the same time. Nobody would know. And the best thing about this is that you can always paste repetition with this.